I have myself full confidence that if all do their duty, if nothing is neglected, and the best arrangements are made as they are being made, we shall prove ourselves once more able to defend our home, to ride out the storm of war, and to outlive the menace of tyranny, if necessary, for years, if necessary, alone. Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of the Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender!
Several parts of the areas that were controlled by the Ukrainian Nazi battalions, the Russian army is now distributing humanitarian assistance. This particular town was hit by these battalions and destroyed a factory, destroyed school, and there is a severe crisis going on here. And to talk about this, I have a guest. She's an Canadian journalist living in Russia, Eva Bartlett. Eva, what's the humanitarian situation in the newly liberated areas of the Donbass?
Well, I think as people will see behind us, people are lining up for the supplies, which are actually quite sufficient, it seems, and they're coming in batches to collect supplies. I would note that this is similar to what we saw in Syria once areas were liberated of terrorists that had occupied these areas and starved the civilians. Once the areas were liberated, humanitarian corridors, well, before they were liberated, humanitarian corridors were set up, civilians fled to secure areas, and then they were given humanitarian aid.
And is this issue really covered by the mainstream media in the West?
Absolutely not, and it might seem strange, but I've been taking photos of the actual aid packages, what goes into the boxes or the bags, because I know the predictable Western response will be, well, they're empty or something like that. But they contain a variety of proteins, vegetable in tins, chocolate even, water obviously, and it's not going to be reported on in Western media, or they will say this is just a stage, that these are just actors, or this is just happening in one region. But we've seen a few regions already, and we've only been here for a couple of days. We're here to report on both on the liberation of these areas, but also on the suffering these people have endured. In Donetsk and Lugansk, under 8 years of Ukrainian shelling with heavy artillery, day and night. We have at least 14,000 people killed. It could be upwards of 20. I've heard some estimates. So that's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about the fact that almost 2 weeks ago, in the hub of Donetsk, there was a Ukrainian Churchill missile, which had, I'm not a military expert, but it had cluster munitions essentially. And were the whole thing to have detonated in the middle of Donetsk, there would have been more than the 21 civilians that were killed and the 37 that were injured, including amputations of limbs. These are the things journalists should be talking about.